live. Don't miss it.
The Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court invites you to the opening of the Law Year 2025. Join His Lordship, the Honorable Mario Michel, Acting Chief Justice, and other distinguished speakers from the inner and outer bar across the OECS on Friday, 10th January 2025 at 10 a.m. as they address you live from the National Cultural Center in Castries, St. Lucia on the theme Accessibility and Awareness, the ECSC Bridging the Gap through Community Engagement, brought to you live from your local GIS stations, YouTube, and on the court's website www.eccourts.org. The ECSC Opening of the Law Year 2025. It's your court. Don't miss it.
The Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court presents the opening of the Law Year 2025. Meet the speakers live. Join us for our 3-episode broadcast on the 7th, 8th, and 9th of January 2025. Each day at 3 p.m. Streamed live via the court's website www.eccourts.org, where we get to talk with the speakers who will be addressing you for the opening of the Law Year 2025. The Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court opening of the Law Year 2025. Meet the speakers live. Don't miss it.
The Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court invites you to the opening of the Law Year 2025. Join His Lordship, the Honorable Mario Michel, Acting Chief Justice, and other distinguished speakers from the inner and outer bar across the OECS on Friday, 10th January 2025 at 10 a.m. as they address you live from the National Cultural Center in Castries, St. Lucia on the theme Accessibility and Awareness, the ECSC Bridging the Gap through Community Engagement, brought to you live from your local GIS stations, YouTube, and on the court's website www.eccourts.org. The ECSC Opening of the Law Year 2025. It's your court. Don't miss it.
The Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court presents the opening of the Law Year 2025. Meet the speakers live. Join us for our 3-episode broadcast on the 7th, 8th, and 9th of January 2025. Each day at 3 p.m. Stream live via the court's website www.eccourts.org. The Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court presents Meet the Speakers 2025. Join us as we chat live with the speakers, addressing you for the opening of the Law Year 2025. His Lordship, the Honorable Mr. Mario Michel, Acting Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. Honorable Leslie Mondesi, Attorney General and Representative of St. Lucia. Her Honor, Miss Candia Carrijo, Representative of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Miss Shannon Jones-Gittins, Director of Public Prosecutions and Representative of Antigua and Barbuda. Miss Siobhan Spencer-Joseph, Solicitor General and Representative of Grenada. Mr. John Carrington, King's Counsel and Representative of the British Virgin Islands. Miss Jean Dyer, President and Representative of the OECS Bar Association. Miss Merlene Barrett, Representative of the Territory of Anguilla. Mr. Oris Sullivan, representative of the Territory of Montserrat. Miss Michelle O'Brien, representative of St. Kitts and Nevis. Mr. Jamali John, representative of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. With your host, Michelle John Thibbles, Chief Registrar. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this, our first edition of Meet the Speakers. How's everyone doing this afternoon? We have two of our speakers here with us, and I am happy to introduce them. We have, first of all, Ms. Shannon Jones-Gittins, and she's our Director of Public Prosecutions from the island of Antigua and Barbuda. And we have our representative from the Bar Association, Mr. Jamali John. I'm going to give you a few minutes just to say hello and introduce yourselves. We'll start with DPP. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chief Registrar. Hello, everyone. My name is Shannon Jones-Gittins, and I am the Acting Director of Public Prosecutions in Antigua and Barbuda. I have been at the Office of the DPP for the last 13 years. It's basically all I have done. Yes, and I am excited about the opening of this law year.
Good to have you with us. How's Antigua and Barbuda today?
It's not bad.
It's a
Good
bit
weather.
rainy here in St. Lucia, so maybe you have all the good weather up north.
It's a bit overcast, but it was bright and sunny earlier.
Okay, well, I suppose we'll bring the sunshine on in here. Nice to have you. We also have with us the thorn amongst the roses, shall I say?
Yes.
Mr. John, good afternoon. Introduce yourself to our listeners.
Good afternoon, Madam Chief Registrar. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be on this platform and to be among the distinguished speakers for the opening of the law year 2025. My name is Jamali John. As was mentioned, I'm from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I pursued my law degree at the UWI campus, and I went to law school in Jamaica at the Normandy Law School. I was called to the bar on the 10th of November 2015. So I've been practicing now for 9 years. So this year would actually be my 10th year. So it's a very exciting year for me. I've been a sole practitioner since 2016. So just about all of my practice, most of it, 8 years, I've been basically on my own. And since last year, I am a committee member on the SPG Bar Association Executive. So it's been an interesting 9 years so far, and this is adding a new dimension to the practice because while I'm a novice, I'm happy for the opportunity to be a part of this experience.
And congratulations to you on your 10th year anniversary. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank both of you for accepting the court's invitation, not just to join us today on Meet the Speakers, but most importantly, to be one of our speakers for the opening of the law year 2025. The opening of the law year is usually the highlight of the court's calendar. And we at the Supreme Court, we're very excited to be able to share on this platform to give you an opportunity to speak to our listeners, to speak, just to tell us your thoughts on the opening of the law year. If I could start with you, DPP, the theme for this year's law year, opening the law year, is accessibility and awareness. The ECSC, bridging the gap through community engagement. So you have been asked to deliver your address around this theme, but without giving away too much, could you tell us what does this theme mean to you and the member state of Antigua and Barbuda?
Thank you, Madam Chief Registrar. Accessibility and awareness. Those are two important features of our justice system. And I think when I think about it, we are providing a service to the country, and the people, those are the people, those are who we're serving. So it is important for them to be aware of the processes and to understand how to access it. So when I think of the team in terms of bridging the gap, what comes to my mind also are some activities that usually take place during the law week, more specifically, the legal aid clinic, where they actually engage with the members of the community, the Bar Association. They usually have this open day where persons are allowed to come in and you get free legal advice, essentially. So that is one way in which there is community engagement. That's what comes to mind, and that is very important.
Yes. And if I could just turn over to Mr. John at this time, how do you, what's your take on the theme and the importance to the wider community, especially?
Okay, so when I think about accessibility, what comes to my mind is access to justice, and awareness brings to mind the importance of public education on legal issues. Now, long before I became a practitioner, there was a program that was televised called The Law New. I believe most persons in the region might know about it. It's a program that was done by the late Henry Campbell, King's Counsel. And that program was one of the ways in which ordinary people became aware of what the law in St. Vincent is and what their rights are. And even long after he has passed on, people will still say, I heard Parnell say, or I heard this on the Law New, and so on. So even though he is no longer with us, I think we have a responsibility to continue to be involved in public education programs so that persons can be aware of what the laws are and know what their rights are. Because if people don't know what their rights are, they would not know when it's being infringed, and they obviously would not take action if they are not aware, right? In terms of accessibility, that is really about how easy it is for persons to access the justice that they need, right? Do we have a system in place that is not only effective, but efficient? And we live in a technological age, and we have a responsibility to keep up with the times. I believe that the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court has been doing a very good job in terms of keeping up with modern times, but we still have to, do our assessment to see in what ways we can improve so that it becomes even more efficient than it is right now.
Okay. And Madam DPP, if I could just ask you, first of all, whose responsibility do you think it is to ensure that the public is made aware of the role of the court, what the court is supposed to do, or the entire system of justice? Do you think it's only the responsibility of the court, or are there other entities that you could see play a role?
Well, I think it's all of our roles, the persons who work in the justice system. So not just the court, but offices such as the Office of the DPP, the bar associations, and they do have that. When Mr. John mentioned that program that they had in St. Vincent, there's a similar one that is put on now by the Bar Association. It's a televised on the National Broadcasting Network, Bar Talk. And in that is what they do. They educate the public about certain legal issues and the rights. So it's not just the court, but what I do love about the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court is that you lead by example. So the court goes out and the court does things, and that encourages us, the other stakeholders, to also play our parts. You remind us that we have this duty.
Yes, thank you for that commendation because the impetus or the thrust behind this public education campaign that the court had started last year in September was really to ensure that persons are made aware of the role of the court, in particular in the Eastern Caribbean. We found that there was a disconnect where people didn't know enough about the court. And if I have to just take my mind back to maybe my teenage years, because probably I wouldn't be able to go all the way back to primary school years and infant, but at least my teenage years, I don't think that I knew enough about the court. Even though I wanted to be a lawyer, I think I'm realizing now that I didn't know enough to allow me to make an informed career choice. I mean, it has worked out, but I really think that people really need to know more, and we want to bridge that gap. Sometimes there's a myth about this court, some mystery, about the court. Sometimes people think that there shouldn't be transparency with the court. What are your thoughts on that? Maybe Mr. John, you could weigh in.
Yeah, I believe that we need transparency. And one of the challenges that we have is that when we have open court hearings, right? Obviously, that means that anybody from the public can come in and observe proceedings. But when you have courtrooms that are limited in space in terms of how many persons that they can accommodate, you realize that even though the court is open per se, not a lot of persons can actually come and observe the proceedings. And that's one of the challenges that we have. In particular, when it comes to criminal matters, because when the public has criticisms for the legal system, it's usually criminal matters that they are upset about. But not many persons would actually come into the courtroom to hear the evidence, to get an idea as to what actually transpired, why a verdict might have gone a certain way, or why a particular sentence was imposed. And so you find that now resting solely on the shoulders of journalists who come in and write stories. But even when they publish stories, it is not always, the full picture is not always painted. And it's not to say I'm criticizing journalists, but there's only so much you can put in a publication anyway, right? And so, I mean, I don't want to say we need to broadcast court hearings, but certainly when you look at, say, for instance, Court of Appeal matters, they're sometimes done on Zoom, and you have a wider range of persons who log in, especially when matters of great public interest are being dealt with. And so it would be nice to see more of that, not just at the Court of Appeal level, but also perhaps at the High Court level as well.
Yes. Okay. And I don't know, DPP, you wanted to weigh in on that?
Yes, I don't know about perhaps one of these days we will get to the point where we're televising trials, but in the meantime, I agree with Mr. John in terms of the public having to rely sometimes solely on what is printed or what the journalists report. So perhaps in terms of the DPP's office, that we can probably do some more media releases that give a little more information in terms of the law and how it was applied and things like that to give a better understanding of what exactly happened. So again, us playing our part.
Very true. So very true. And I think also the court has a role to play in that. Maybe we could do some media training as well to really help the media know how to report on matters. Sometimes maybe press releases on, especially if matters are very topical and you want to ensure that the correct decision is reflected or it goes out to the public at large. I know that the court sometimes, in some cases, we do our press releases where we would sort of let the ratio of the matter be known and break it down as best as we can so that the public could get the verified and accurate information about what transpired. Also on the court's website, we tend to have something called the judgment focus, where we sort of highlight on judgments that are really important. So persons could really read it up for themselves, to see what this matter is about. And knowledge is power. So sometimes we should not, as citizens, I'm saying we, just as citizens, we should not solely rely on what we see online. We need to check for ourselves and do our own investigations, ask questions so that we can empower ourselves to make sure that the information that we have is the correct information, especially if somebody's asking us to weigh in on something. We have to ensure that the information that we're weighing in on is absolutely correct. So the ECSC has done a few reform initiatives, in particular to create accessibility and awareness. We could speak about a few of these. Our e-litigation portal is one of them. Our recordings, our transcripts, and just a few of them. Would you like to highlight for us some of the reform initiatives that have and how these have benefited your member states and territories? Maybe we could start with you, Mr. John.
Okay, so in relation to the initiatives that have been undertaken, that portal system has benefited all of us in terms of how easy it is for persons to file matters. I sometimes wonder if anything can be done in relation to helping pro se litigants, because we continue to have an issue with pro se litigants who themselves complain that, coming to, well, first of all, when documents are filed online, they're not necessarily notified. They have to actually physically come to the High Court office to inquire if anything was filed, and of course, pay whatever fees they have to pay to get a printout of the documents. But that has benefited us, especially when you talk about reducing the papers in office, so that you don't necessarily have to have all of these bundles of files, especially when you have to move about, right? You have them with you at all times, and that has benefited me, and I'm sure other practitioners will say likewise. When we had one of our sessions last year, the new technology of the transcript in terms of the speech to text,
Yes.
that had to that one being rolled out. When you guys came to St. Vincent, I mean, persons asked about the capacity of the technology to understand our dialect, because as you go through each member state, we have different expressions. We talk different, and so in terms of the accuracy of it, but I am hopeful that it will, when it is rolled out, it will be seamless, because of course the time it takes for us to get those transcripts will enable us to do certain things faster, especially when it comes to appeals and so on. So all of these, as I said in the very beginning, living in a technological age, these initiatives and staying abreast. And one of the things too that I really like, one of the changes that we made before COVID, if you wanted to appear online, you had to file an application, whether it was as counsel or your client. But since COVID, when we moved on Zoom to have court matters, we no longer have to file those applications to have persons appearing online. And really and truly, that to me has made it easier for persons to interact with ecosystem because we have clients who reside out of the jurisdiction, and it just makes it easier if they can simply send in an email address, for instance, and be able to participate in their matters. And even for lawyers as well, when we travel, it's easier when we have that um, framework in place. And I don't want to jump ahead, but I will say that while we have that um, technology and facilities there at the High Courts, it is not yet available at most of the magistrate courts in St. Vincent. I don't know about other member states, but it really doesn't make sense in this day and age to have a matter adjourned simply because somebody has to travel, right? It shouldn't be.
Yes. Yes.
But I'm hoping that very soon more magistrate courts will be able to have and it's not anything that's necessarily too expensive or too complex to set up, so that witnesses, parties can be able to have their matters done, whether or not they're in the jurisdiction. Right? So, but all of these initiatives will go a very long way in making everything more efficient and more effective.
Certainly, and that's the aim of all these reform initiatives, to ensure that we remain efficient and effective in our administration of justice. DPP, can you share with us from the standpoint of Antigua and Barbuda?
Yes, so Mr. John took most of what what I
I'm
was
sorry.
going to say.
I'm sorry.
Probably the
But-
same throughout.
But yes, it is the same throughout. The use of the video link technology, that was at the top of my list. In terms of access to justice, that has just changed how things operate in terms of the criminal court. Because in our island states, what we used to find in times gone by was that persons may have traveled for school or they migrated, and so you have this matter, this person is a complainant in a matter, and
So there's still the
eventually,
interest in the matter.
right, so they eventually just give up on it because of this difficulty in them having to come back. And then the government had that expense too of having to bring persons back to the country, and they have to provide the accommodation, the food, and all of that. So with the use of this technology, we're saving costs so that it could be put to use, hopefully, in other parts of the criminal justice system. So in terms of access to justice and our witnesses, all those persons online. Of course, a lot of the criminal court, not too much of it can be moved online. But for those parts where we can, we really appreciate that initiative. Also, we're now seeing that the magistrates court is rethinking in terms of their weekly remands, because that too, where you used to physically have to bring all these prisoners to the courts, that they can now implement the technology of the live link to have that done, so that the persons are being brought before the court without the transportation and the security and all of that other logistics having to be put in place. So that is one of the initiatives that has really benefited Antigua and Barbuda, and I'm sure the other member states.
Yes, all around, we hear the same thing, the same commendations: technology, technology, technology. We look at it in our everyday world, and in our legal system, it's no different. Technology is, in fact, here to stay, and we have to just get on board with that. I'm sure even with your practices, you could see how technology has changed the way in which you operate. Mr. John, you're still fairly young. I don't know if you remember the age of the typewriter, where we physically used to have to type up documents and deeds and so. But now we're into the computer age. I don't know if there are any officers that still have typewriters, unless they're just a memento from the past, because this is how the law evolves along with time and changes. And I hear what you say, Mr. John, about the pro se litigants and their access to the portal. And I can tell you that we at the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, we have recognized this. And we hear the pro se litigants, we hear their cries, and we are working this out to try to see what's the best way to allow them to get onto the portal. And in relation to our Zoom hearings, we have thought about the broadcast of our hearings, and we think it may be something that's inevitable, but we just want to make sure that when we do it, that we get it right. You know, so we keep thinking of ways that we could enhance the services that the court provides, new initiatives. And in this year in particular, we've been thinking of how we could bridge the gap in community engagements. Are there any ideas that any of you may have on how we can do that? What, any suggestions, any recommendations you can make to the court? We'd be happy to receive them.
In terms of bridging the gap through community engagement?
Yes, anything you'd like to see the court do more of?
Well, I don't know if this is necessarily for the court to do, but one of the recent developments that captured the region's attention was the assassination of a prosecutor in Trinidad. That basically sent shockwaves around the region. He's somebody who I had met before because we are part of the same church community. So when we had a religious liberty conference in St. Kitts in 2016, I met him there, and we connected on Facebook, and we stayed connected over the years, right? And when I saw the news that he was assassinated, and the way it was done, honestly, it was just devastating, right? And even within our local fraternity, we discussed it, and you know, not everybody has the same view of the matter, but you know, persons are concerned when you see how crime is affecting even the legal system, right? Because if prosecutors start feeling concerned about their safety, if criminal defense attorneys start feeling concerned about the safety, it's going to cause reluctance for persons to say, okay, I'm going to prosecute this matter. And when persons start being unwilling to prosecute certain matters, then it causes a breakdown in justice because they are still victims of crime who expect that the legal system would be there to quote unquote bring justice to them and their grieving families, right? I am just hoping that whatever we look at that particular case, and it's not the first time it's happening, but we look at these things and see how we can perhaps either advocate for more security when these high profile matters are being done, so that we don't have a repeat of experiences like these, because we can't. It's not something that we want to see more of at all.
You know, it's so important because that is also where the bar, the legal fraternity, the bar association comes in to work together with the court, because we are all on the same side. Yes, it may be an adversarial sort of the nature of the job is adversarial because you have one side, you know, against another, but we still want justice to be done. We want the processes to be able to be carried out in accordance with the rule of law. And, you know, whatever the outcome, we have options if we want to appeal or do anything further, you know. So at the end of the day, we have to have the respect and maintain the respect for these processes. And sometimes, unfortunately, we have persons taking the law into their own hands, or persons just being dissatisfied, and the reactions are not really what they should be or what we expect. So we really need the legal fraternity, the bench, and the bar to really come together, to fight this and to ensure that we are all made safe in this space that we have to work in. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. Ms. Jones-Gittins?
Yes, in terms, I'm not sure that this is not something necessarily for the court, but perhaps we can get some encouragement from the court for a more structured approach for legal aid for criminal matters. The criminal defense bar is dwindling, and I think persons should have access to representation. And our legal aid clinic focuses on civil matters, and it does extend to some criminal, but not many criminal matters. And in some cases, persons just need someone, well, an attorney, to just give them some guidance. It wouldn't necessarily mean taking on a full trial, but sometimes they just need a little nudge to either take a certain course or just someone to look over the matter and maybe bring something to our attention that we may have missed to get the matter resolved speedily. So there is need for more representation, more legal aid for criminal matters. And I'd like to see something done where that is concerned. As the years go by, it's the same set of lawyers, and then we lose some of them. And even though we're having more graduates, the numbers are still dwindling.
And it's not just Antigua and Barbuda. We hear the same thing throughout the island chain jurisdiction. We hear the same thing. So what do you think you could do to encourage more practitioners to practice at the criminal bar?
And that's a very interesting question, Madam Chief Registrar.
I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot. I'm so sorry.
And that is why I said, I would like for the courts to look at it and perhaps give some encouragement and maybe some ideas in terms of what may incentivize persons to want to assist more in the criminal courts. I am not sure.
Yes. Well, it's something I'm sure that as a court, it would be beneficial for us to look at, because the matters come before the court, and we face the difficulties, especially with scheduling sometimes, because of the limited number of practitioners you have, and sometimes you have more than one criminal court in a jurisdiction and in an island rather, and you find it would be difficult to schedule because we don't have enough counsel. And likewise, sometimes even the Crown Counsel, the DPP's office, sometimes the human resources there are also limited. So that would be something that as a court, it would be beneficial for us to look at. We hear you, and like I say, we just want to do our best to ensure that the administration of justice is done in a way that is beneficial to the citizens that we serve here in the Eastern Caribbean. So as we wrap up our conversation, we're here because of the opening of the Law Year 2025. It's happening on Friday, the 10th of January. And we have different activities in the islands. So we're normally starting off with a church service. Antigua and Barbuda is doing it a little different this year. DPP, you want to tell us about it?
And I think they also did this last year, where we're having the church service on the day before the actual opening. So that's on the 9th. It's going to be at our usual church, the Methodist Church. I think the idea behind it was in terms of the actual opening, a lot of persons attend from their offices. Yes. So to give them enough time to ensure that they're all settled and everything for when that will be live streamed, they put the church service on a day by itself, so we can all be ready for the day of the opening.
Yes. And following the church service, you have the usual procession?
Yes, we're still having that, yes.
Yes, follow to the courthouse. You
Back to the
process it from the
courthouse.
church to the
To
courthouse,
the
and there
courthouse.
the senior judge will do the inspection of the guard of honor.
That is correct. Yes, that's still
Yes. I mean, that's an exciting time for me. I absolutely love that. I I used to be a pathfinder when I was younger, and
okay.
yeah, so we had all these drills and marching and all that sort of thing. So I mean, I love music as well. So the police band and that entire thing, and it's one of my fondest childhood memories. At my primary school, where they would bring us onto the balcony to watch the lawyers process. So for me,
Yes.
I absolutely love that part of it, and it's an age-old tradition, and
Yes.
I am a traditionalist at heart. So I really like to see that we can keep some of the things that really define who we are, you know, as a profession, and that's one of those that I'm a stickler for. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I'm told that there is a church service as well, Mr. John.
Yes, there's a church service starts at 8 o'clock. On Friday, we're having both activities on the same day. So the church service is at 8 o'clock at the Cathedral of the Assumption, and the procession to the court. I'm advised that it would be at courtroom number 2, that's in DeVille Plaza. In St. Vincent, we are currently going through getting new court facilities. So we have some
In
renovation that's still,
transition, yes.
yes, we're in a transitionary period. So apart from temporary accommodation that we should be moving into soon, there's also a new court building that should start construction sometime this year. So we have in the
Yes.
transition, but we're still having our gathering in the courtroom number
Yes.
2. And following that, we will have a little gathering for the lawyers. So it's good when we can come together and socialize after a little
Yes.
Christmas break to see each other again and still wish each other the best for the year.
No, that's very nice, because although things may stop or go slow, justice cannot. The administration of justice has to keep going. So whether we in transition, whether we in temporary, or as we say sometimes in St. Lucia, temporary permanent, we have to just keep going and make the most of it. And of course, the highlight is the special sitting, which starts at 10 a.m. So the court is on rotation and will be in St. Lucia. The Court of Appeal will be in St. Lucia. We're back here at the host country of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. And His Lordship, the Honorable Mr. Mario Michel, our acting Chief Justice, will be delivering the feature address from St. Lucia. And also speaking from St. Lucia would be the representative for St. Lucia, who is the Honorable Leslie Mondesi. He is the Attorney General. And then the other speakers, along with yourself, will be coming in from your various islands remotely. So we're looking forward to hearing your addresses. We're looking forward to hearing that of the other speakers. And we really just want to invite the public to be a part of it. So in your closing statement, I just would like you to just say why you think it's important for the public to own in on this activity, this event, and to be a part of it as you give your closing remarks. I'll start with you, DPP.
So it's always important for the public to know what's going on with the courts. And this is the opening of the law year, where you're going to hear from the Chief Justice, a featured address. And then the way that it's set up now, that you have these addresses from the various territories. So they're going to be able to hear from all these esteemed speakers on this theme that has been presented for this year. And given that this year we're talking about community engagement, I think the public would be quite interested to hear what the speakers have to say regarding that, since that we're bridging the gap by doing community engagement. So they're set to learn a lot about in terms of the court and its functioning. So it would be beneficial for them to tune in and hear from the speakers.
Awesome.
Yes.
Mr. John?
Yes, I echo those sentiments, and just to add that sometimes things are happening and people don't always know that things are happening, because if it's not on social media these days, it's almost like it didn't happen. But this opening would give the members of the public insight into some of the things that we have been doing as a local bar association, and some of the things that we have planned for this year. And it's only if they take the interest in coming out, listening in, they will be able to get some ideas to what have we been up to, what are the plans, so that they can know even opportunities that they could be able to take advantage of based on what is being offered by the bar association. So I encourage people to come out to get in tune, follow the event, because I'm sure that the speeches will be informative and it's good information for them to have.
Yes, certainly. So if you are listening to us, this is Meet the Speakers Live, and we are talking about the opening of the Law Year 2025. It's happening in your member state and territory. And today we've been speaking with Ms. Shannon Jones-Gittens, who's the Acting Director of Public Prosecutions for Antigua and Barbuda, and Mr. Jamali John, who's a representative of the Utter Bar for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You need to be a part of the opening of the Law Year. Join us, whether live or whether in person or online. Be a part of the church service. Find out where, if you are in a member state or territory other than those we've spoken about today, find out where the church service is going to be. We normally start things off with prayer here at the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, and then be a part of the procession, then the special sitting to mark the opening. You can catch it live on www.eccourts.org. It will be streamed via our social media platforms. As Mr. John says, we have to be going this way of social media, or else, people might just get lost of everything and not know what's going on. This is the way of the world right now. So it will be streamed live on our social media platforms. It will also be aired on our various GIS stations throughout the OECS member states and territories. I thank you so much, Ms. Jones-Gittens and Mr. John, for joining us here on Meet the Speakers. Join us tomorrow, same time, 3 p.m., same link, where we will be speaking with some more of our speakers for the opening of the Law Year 2025. I am your host, Michelle John Thibbles, Chief Registrar. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a pleasant evening. The Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court presents Meet the Speakers 2025. Join us as we chat live with the speakers, addressing you for the opening of the Law Year 2025. His Lordship, the Honorable Mr. Mario Michel, Acting Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. The Honorable Leslie Mondesi, Attorney General and Representative of St. Lucia. Her Honor, Miss Candia Carrot George, Representative of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Miss Shannon Jones-Gittens, Director of Public Prosecutions and Representative of Antigua and Barbuda. Miss Siobhan Spencer Joseph, Solicitor General and Representative of Grenada. Mr. John Carrington, King's Counsel and Representative of the British Virgin Islands. Miss Jean Dyer, President and Representative of the OECS Bar Association. Miss Merlene Barrett, Representative of the Territory of Anguilla. Mr. Oris Sullivan, Representative of the Territory of Montserrat.